Today, I would like to kind of tie together a lot of the recent videos that have led up to this, and to do so under the umbrella of those things which are good versus those things which are evil. As we read in Deuteronomy, I set before you a choice this day, life and good, death and evil. And that's the choice that each one of us has. So we must be informed about what that choice is before we were to make it. So we've looked at several concepts. We've looked at what the actual Hebrew word, the original word that was used in the original scriptures to describe certain concepts. And one of them that we looked at was the word chayin. In Psalm 84 verse 11 it says, "For Yehovah Elohim is a sun and a shield. Yehovah gives chayin and esteem. He withholds no good matter from those who walk blamelessly." And we saw in Psalm 34 verse 7, the angel of Yehovah encamps around all those who fear him and rescues them. So that word there, chana, is the verb root of the word chayin. It's what is being done in the concept of grace. Yehovah is encamping around those who look to him. And we saw that his grace takes many different forms. If he is working in your life, then that is him giving grace to you because you are seeking after him. If you missed that video that was all about that, that is called Working with God, and that is all about God's grace. In Hosea 14 verse 9 it says, "Who is wise and understands these, discerning and knows them? For the ways of Yehovah are straight, and the righteous walk in them, but the transgressors stumble in them." Okay, so the idea of those who are wise versus those who are foolish. The wise walk in the way, and the way is the way in which Yehovah would have us to walk. It's his ways. It says the ways of Yehovah are straight. The word for iniquity in Hebrew is avon, and iniquity may be familiar to us, but really the word means that which is crooked. To do a crookedness would be to do iniquity. So the ways of Yehovah are straight. The ways of the wicked are crooked. It says the transgressors stumble in the ways of Yehovah. And we know that people stumble at the word. They are disobedient to the word and they stumble at those things. And we saw kind of the idea that there is a steadiness, a firmness to the word of Yehovah and to truth when we did the video Truth. So go back if you want to see exactly what truth is, because it's not really like how we imagine what the word truth means in English. It's that which is steady and that which is firm, that which you will not stumble in, you will not reel to and fro as a drunkard, as you would with the wine of false doctrine. Isaiah 65, 2-3 says, "I have held out my hands all day long to a stubborn people who walk in a way that is not good after their own thoughts, the people who provoke me continually to my face. So we saw that those who are crooked, those who stumble, those who stagger around, are those who are stubborn. Yehovah has given us his instruction, and it's a matter of rebellion to decide that you're going to do what you think should be done. It's not deferring to Yehovah's greater knowledge of a situation. And he describes such people as those who provoke him continually to his face. So that's not a very stable position from which to ask for his grace. He gives grace, of course, to those who come to him in submission. And he says, look, I've held out my hands all day long to this people, this stubborn people, but their mind is made up on doing things their own way. They don't walk in my ways. They walk in a way that is not good. So that's the opposite of walking in the way. And they walk after their own thoughts. So the idea behind rebellion is that someone is choosing to do what they want to do as if they know better than Yehovah. And as I say, he describes such people as those who provoke him continually to his face. And he speaks of such people in Psalm 50, 16 to 17. But to the wrong, Elohim said, what right do you have to recite my laws or take my covenant in your mouth? While you hated instruction and cast my words behind you. So those people who provoke him to his face, who go in their own stubborn way of doing things, he actually says to them, you have no right to speak my laws. All of the hundreds, thousands of Torah groups that meet and don't follow his instructions as he gives them, but kind of have their own way of doing things. They're all rebels before him. And he says that they have no right to recite his laws, nor to take his covenant in their mouth, which is a pretty serious thing. You think of all the people who would think of themselves as being in covenant with Yehovah, and yet he says to them, you have no right to take my covenant in your mouth because you're rebellious, you're stubborn, you will not do according to the good instruction that I gave you, which is the meaning of the word Torah. It's directions or instructions. We don't really have an equivalent English word for it. And of course his laws, his chukim, are a part of his Torah. He said, well, you hated instruction and cast my words behind you. See, sometimes it doesn't seem clear to people that that's what they're doing, but that's how Yehovah sees it. People think, well, I do most of what's in the Bible. I don't do these bits, but I've got my own reasons for not doing those bits. The way that Yehovah sees it is really important to know. He sees that as rebellion. He says you've got no right to take his covenant in your mouth. He sees it as you hating instruction, and he sees you as casting his words behind you. And yet often people have a delusion in their head that allows them to think that is somehow acceptable before him, that they are somehow going to be accepted by him. And it's just really useful for us to take heed of how he actually sees it. If we're going to choose evil, it's better to be fully informed as to what we're actually doing and how Yehovah actually sees such things. But I would recommend the video In Covenant with Yehovah, which has been put up recently. If you missed that one, or In Covenant with God, can't remember what it's called, but type in the Way Biblical Fellowship In Covenant with, and you'll see it. Or go back in the videos on the channel, and it's a few months old, a couple of months maybe. If we're going to say that we're in covenant with Yehovah, we have to realize that that's a two-way thing. It's not just us saying, okay, I'm in covenant with God now, and now he is going to do all this good for me, but I'm just going to not do the things that he says to do. That's not how a covenant works, but I'd recommend that video anyway. In John 14, it says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. And we looked at this concept in the video Shalom. Shalom is the Hebrew word that gets translated as peace. But the English words that are in our Bibles, things like love, peace, grace, all kind of make what Yehovah is saying kind of woolly, kind of puts a sheen of loveliness on it that it's not that it's not lovely, but it's a lot more concrete as well underneath. And we looked at the word shalom and how it actually speaks of completeness and wholeness and kind of like integrity, something having integrity, not moral integrity, although you could say that that was part of having shalom. But what I mean is when something is integrated instead of being disintegrated. He says, do not let your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Okay, but be in a state of shalom. And that's not peace, how we would think of it as, oh, I've got a great peace from that. It's this state that comes from being in accordance with his word. 1 Corinthians 14:33 says, for Elohim is not Elohim of disorder, which would be the opposite of shalom, but of peace. Greek word eusebeia used there, but it's the Hebrew word shalom, which is important to understand. As in all the assemblies of the holy or set apart ones. So if you missed the video on shalom, it's simply entitled Shalom. I would recommend going back and watching it. But this verse really encapsulates what shalom is. Elohim is not an Elohim of disorder or disintegration, but of shalom. Shalom being the opposite, when things are integrated together, when things are whole, when things are complete. See, when you choose evil, what you're choosing is a state that is fractured, one that is not whole, something that can never bring about anything that is satisfying. If you go after the lusts of the flesh, because you see something and you want that thing, or you don't want to do something that Yehovah asks you to do, then you will never reach that state of integration and wholeness and completeness. It's a major thing that is missing from the man-made religion of Christianity, simply because they teach against Yehovah's Torah. They don't understand that you need his instructions to interact with the creation in the way that he envisaged at first when he created everything. He gives us good instructions so that we can go about our lives in an effective way and have that state of completeness, of wholeness. That's why it says in Psalm 119, verse 165, great shalom have those who love your Torah. If you recognize his Torah and you implement it in your life, it will bring that state of integrity, of completeness or wholeness. James 1:19-20 says, so then, my beloved brothers, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man does not work the righteousness of Elohim. And we looked at the idea of chesed. If you missed us looking at chesed, the video is called The Weightier Matters, and we looked at the word chesed and how we are to be. We also looked at the idea that the things that you tell people, if you kind of tell them angrily about what God expects of them and what they're doing wrong and this, that and the other, that's not the best way to reach somebody. And the best way to reach somebody is to kind of meet them where they're at, and don't be known by the things that you disapprove, but be known by the things that you approve, the good things. Let people see the good fruit that comes from walking in the Word. Don't let them see somebody who is always having a go at them over the things that they do. That's not how you want to represent God to them, because as we've seen, God gives grace to those who approach him, and we should be gracious in the same way. If somebody is mistaken, then we can help them to see their mistake. But the best way to reach them is by doing what is good, by shining the light before them. If you missed that, it's in a video called What You Approve. If you watch What You Approve and the weightier matters together, they kind of form a whole in and of themselves. But the wrath of man, being angry at people and telling them, oh no, you shouldn't be doing that. That's an abomination to God or whatever. That's a very ineffective way of reaching somebody, and it doesn't work the righteousness of Elohim, who would have you approach people with chen and with chesed in your dealings with them. Psalm 25 verse 10 says, all the paths of Yehovah are chesed and emet to those who keep his covenant and his witnesses. So the concept of chesed is in the weightier matters. Truth is in truth. And the idea of keeping his covenant is in the video in covenant with God, in covenant with Yehovah, whichever one I went for. But this kind of ties all these concepts together. The paths of Yehovah are kindness and truth to those who keep his covenant. The way of Yehovah is kindness and truth to those who keep his covenant. not only will he show kindness and truth to those people, but his actual ways themselves are kindness and truth for you to walk in and to show those things to other people. There's something that will ring true to people about truth because it's solid, it's dependable, it's reliable, and if you speak what is true to people, then they will be able to intuit that from what you say. And if they see you living it out, that is far better for them to reach them than it is to kind of castigate them for the things that they are doing, which God finds displeasing. You want to encourage people to do what is right, rather than discourage them from doing what is wrong. Although it's certainly appropriate with brothers and sisters to steer them in the right direction if they're doing something which is wrong. But showing kindness and truth to people is something that they can kind of get on board with. Nobody has to even feel like they're being reproved if you show kindness and truth to them and they realize this is the right way to be. Once they've realized that, all of the bad stuff will fall away from them. So the way to reach people that you want to reach is not to show them all the bad things, but to show them the good. And then once they're on board with the good, the bad falls away naturally. Matthew 7:24-27 says, "Therefore everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a fool, and does not do them rather, shall be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and they beat on that house, and it fell, and great was its fall." So in the video Truth, we looked at how truth actually means something which is steadfast and reliable, something that is solid and permanent. Its root, the verb root of the Hebrew word for truth, which is emet, is aman, which is the same verb root of emunah. Emunah is faith. So when you are founded on the rock, you are founded on something that is true, something that is dependable, something that is reliable. So when storms come, they cannot knock down what is built on the rock because it is steadfast. Whereas if you build something on something that is untrue, something that is a lie, something that the father of lies has come and convinced you about, then that will be removed, it will be shaken, it will be toppled. For more on the father of lies, the video The Devil is Where You Want to Go. In 2 Kings 12 verse 15, we see the word emunah, usually translated as faith or belief. Here, it's translated as trustworthily. So the word emet or meth is shares a verb root with this word, and they both speak of that which is trustworthy, steadfast, that which is enduring. We also see emunah used in Exodus 17, where it speaks of Moshe's hands and Aharon and Hur, supporting his hands so that they were emunah, they were steady, they were steadfast. This is the same idea that we see around the word truth. So that which is true is that which is steadfast. This is a constant theme that we get through all of these words. Paul talks about love in 1 Corinthians 13, and the words that he uses to describe love. Stego is something that bears up. Again, something that is solid, that is reliable. Believes all. So it bears up against all, it believes all, and that is the Greek word for the word emunah. So again, it's to do with steadfastness. Trusts in, elpizo, again, it's something which is trustworthy, that is reliable, and endures all, hupomeno. Okay, when it speaks of that which is enduring, again, it's something that is steadfast, something that is reliable, something that will endure the storms. So all of the words that we have, love, peace, the English words really don't get at the heart of the issue. It's good to understand what those words are in the original scriptures so that we can understand what is being told to us in the New Testament or the New Covenant writings. So we have this idea of life and death, good and evil. So on one side we've got good, Yehovah, Torah, life, all would be things that are associated with that which is good. And on the other side we have evil, disorder. Remember, God is not a God of disorder, but one of shalom. Sin, which is breaking the Torah, and death. In the good column, we have shalom, emet, emunah, chesed, olam, covenant, consistent, or reliable, dependable, and immovable. All of those terms are related one to another. They're all interrelated. In the column for evil, we have ra. That's the word that's usually translated as evil, and it means that which is not as it was intended to be, that which is not fulfilling the purpose for which Yehovah instituted it. We read of the figs that can't be eaten in the book of Jeremiah, and they are described as ra figs. Unstable, transient, okay, it has no permanence. Unreliable, that which is false. And ultimately, it will be shaken, it will be removed at the time of the end. So we have a distinct choice to make there. When we choose that which is against his word, we are choosing something which has no reliability, has no stability to it. We get caught up by some kind of lust of the flesh to do or not do what is either forbidden or required by the word, and there's no satisfaction in that. There's no permanence in that. You cannot rely upon that. And if you have that as your foundation, then when the storms come, then whatever you've built on that foundation will fall. Proverbs 2:6-15 says, "For Yehovah gives wisdom, out of his mouth come knowledge and understanding. And he treasures up stability for the straight, a shield to those walking blamelessly. To watch over the paths of justice, and the way of his kind ones he guards. Then you would understand righteousness and justice and straightness, every good path. For wisdom would enter your heart, and knowledge be pleasant to your soul. Discretion would guard you, understanding would watch over you, to deliver you from the evil way, from the man who speaks perversities, those who leave the paths of straightness to walk in the ways of darkness." And hopefully that piece of scripture now has a lot more meaning to you. You can fully understand what is being said, or perhaps not fully understand, but better understand what Yehovah is saying here when he speaks of those things that are straight, that are stable, the evil way as opposed to his way, that which is wise instead of foolish, and where that comes from. His justice, his righteousness. Hopefully those things now take on a new meaning now that we have a better appreciation of them. Who rejoice to do evil, they delight in the perversities of evil, those things which are unreliable, with no stability, whose paths are crooked, and they are perverted in their ways. Proverbs 4:4-12 says, "Then he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast." Again, another term for something which is steadfast. "Hold fast my words, guard my commands and live," or keep my commands and live, or cherish my commands and live. Let your heart hold fast my words. We must be steadfast in what is steadfast, in the truth. If we are unstable, then we will fail in this. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Don't cast these words behind you and rebel against them. Do not leave her and let her guard you. Love her and let her watch over you. The beginning of wisdom is get wisdom, and with all you're getting, get understanding. Exalt her and let her uplift you. She brings you esteem when you embrace her. When you take hold of that which is steadfast, you take hold of that which is olam, and you embrace it and incorporate it in your life. She gives your head a fair wreath. She shields you with an adorning crown. Hear, my son, and accept my words, and let the years of your life be many. Let the years of your life be ready. Embrace wisdom. Accept the word. Do not rebel against it, and good will be the result. I have taught you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in straight paths. When you walk, your steps shall not be hindered, and if you run, you shall not stumble, because you will be walking on that which is reliable, that which is steadfast, that which is dependable. You will be walking in the way, Yehovah's ways, the way of wisdom. John 18:37-38, we see Pilate with Yeshua. He asked him, "You are a king then?" Yeshua answered, "You say it, because I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth hears my voice." Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" And that is a question that those people who are of the world will have, because sadly they will never have that stability. They will never have that thing upon which they can rely. They will never have that thing from which they will not desire to waver, because it is solid. It is a rock to build your life upon. So we know what truth is. We know that emet, chesed, being in covenant, all of these things speak of the reliability that comes from Yehovah, the dependability that comes from Yehovah. And this is the great gift that we have. Psalm 85, 7-12 says, "Show us your chesed, O Yehovah, and give us your deliverance. Let me hear what Yehovah speaks, for he speaks peace," or shalom, "to his people, and to his kind ones, his chesed," that is those doing chesed. "And let them not turn again to folly," that is foolishness. Let them be wise, in other words. Truly his deliverance or salvation is near to those who fear him, for esteem to dwell in our land. Kindness and truth, chesed and emet, shall meet. Righteousness and shalom shall kiss. Emet sprouts forth from the earth, and righteousness looks down from the heaven. Indeed, Yehovah gives what is good, and our heart yields its increase. So again, we've got a passage of scripture which is hopefully now imbued with more meaning, now that we really understand what these things that are promised to us in these passages actually are. And hopefully we can understand better our walk with Yehovah, and why it's a nonsense to say that his Torah is done away with, or that we don't need it in our lives. It is the very foundation of the salvation or deliverance that is promised to us, that we will be saved from sin, saved from evil, saved from all of that which is not dependable, that is not steadfast. And we are invited to covenant with Yehovah so that we can meet with him and be steadfast with him and walk in those things that are solid, those things which are true. Yehovah willing, I'll see you next week.